There is a strange loneliness that comes with having a powerful personality. You don't try to dominate rooms. You don't aim to overshadow others. Yet somehow when you enter a space, the atmosphere shifts. Conversations become careful. People either gravitate toward you with curiosity or pull back with quiet discomfort. This is not because you are wrong. It is because your presence carries weight. A strong personality is not loud. It is solid. It is rooted. And in a world built on masks and pretending, authenticity feels threatening. Chosen ones often grow up feeling different without knowing why. They are not meant to blend in. They are meant to stand out. Their energy exposes what others try to hide. Their words reveal what others avoid. Their stillness challenges chaos. If you've ever wondered why people misunderstand you, label you as too much, or secretly compete with you, this message is for you. Here are 9 signs your personality is so strong that it intimidates others. 1. Your silence speaks louder than words. You do not need to talk constantly to feel important. When you are quiet, people feel it. Your silence is not empty, it is observant, aware, and controlled. Many people fear silence because it forces them to confront themselves. When you remain calm and watchful, it unsettles those who rely on noise to feel powerful. They project meaning onto your quiet and assume judgment, when in reality, you are simply grounded. Your silence is not weakness, it is presence without performance. In a world addicted to noise, reactions, and constant self-expression, your ability to sit without needing to fill the air with words becomes a form of authority. You are not silent because you lack thoughts. You are silent because you choose when your thoughts deserve to be released. This control over expression signals inner stability. Most people speak to relieve anxiety, to dominate space, or to hide discomfort. You speak only when your words serve a purpose, and that alone sets you apart. Your stillness becomes a mirror that reflects others back to themselves. When someone sits across from you and you do not rush to entertain them, impress them, or validate them, their mind begins to race. They wonder what you are thinking. They wonder how they are being perceived. They feel exposed, not because you attacked them, but because you removed the distraction of noise. Silence forces authenticity into the room. People who rely on charm, exaggeration, or constant speech to feel powerful suddenly feel stripped of their armor. Without your participation in superficial exchanges, they are left with themselves. That is why your silence unsettles them. They interpret your quiet as judgment, because judgment is what they carry within themselves. They assume you are evaluating them because they are already evaluating themselves. In reality, your silence is not an attack, it is a boundary. It is the space where observation replaces reaction. You are not trying to control the room, you are simply not allowing the room to control you. This grounded quietness gives you psychological weight. When you do speak, people listen because your words are rare. Your voice carries more meaning because it is not diluted by excess. You do not compete for attention. Attention naturally turns toward you. You become a calm center in chaotic environments. While others rush to defend, explain, and dominate, you watch. You understand patterns before engaging. This makes people uncomfortable because it removes their advantage. They cannot predict you. They cannot provoke you easily. They cannot read your emotional state from noise alone. Your silence is not passive, it is strategic. It allows you to see without being seen, to understand without being entangled. It protects your energy from being wasted on conversations that lead nowhere. It protects your dignity from being traded for approval. It also protects your power, because power does not announce itself, it waits. And in a society where everyone wants to be heard, the one who does not need to speak becomes the one who is felt. 2. You don't seek approval. You don't shape your personality to fit the crowd. You do not shrink to be liked. You don't constantly ask, "Is this okay?" You move according to your inner compass. This independence threatens people who depend on validation to survive. They see your self-trust as arrogance, not realizing it is discipline. When someone cannot control you emotionally, they feel smaller around you. You are not driven by applause, and that alone separates you from the majority. Most people design their behavior around acceptance. They change their tone depending on who is watching. They soften their opinions when disagreement risks rejection. They exaggerate themselves when admiration is possible. You do none of this. You act according to your internal standards rather than external reactions. This does not mean you lack empathy or respect. It means your identity is not for sale. You do not negotiate your values for comfort. You do not dilute your truth to keep peace. You would rather be misunderstood than dishonest with yourself. This creates psychological pressure on others. People who live off approval feel unsafe around someone who does not need it. They do not know how to manipulate you because their usual tools, praise, guilt, rejection, or flattery, do not work the same way. You are not hungry for validation, so you are not easily led. This makes people uneasy because influence depends on emotional leverage. When you remove that leverage, control collapses. They interpret your self-trust as ego because they have never experienced internal authority. They assume confidence must be pride because they only know insecurity disguised as performance. Your independence is not loud. It does not need to prove itself. It is quiet, consistent, and disciplined. You show up as yourself in every room, regardless of whether the room approves. You do not scan faces to decide who to be. You already know who you are before you enter. This stability threatens those who survive by blending in. They mistake your steadiness for superiority because they measure worth through group approval. They cannot understand a compass that does not point toward others. Emotionally, you cannot be cornered by fear of rejection. You can walk away from groups, conversations, and relationships that demand self-betrayal. This makes others feel exposed because it highlights their dependency. When they see you standing alone without collapsing, it reveals how much of their identity is borrowed. They call you cold, distant, or arrogant, but what they are really seeing is self-governance. You do not ask permission to exist as yourself. That is not rebellion, it is responsibility. Your lack of neediness creates respect even from those who resent it. People trust what is not desperate. They follow what is not begging. And while some will distance themselves because your independence makes them uncomfortable, others will secretly admire it. You become proof that a person can be grounded without being guided, connected without being controlled, and confident without being loud. And in a world built on approval, that is rare power. 3. Your eyes see through masks. You read people without trying. You notice tone shifts, body language, and contradictions. You sense when someone is lying or hiding pain. This makes insecure people nervous because your awareness exposes their performance. They feel seen, and for those living behind illusions, that is terrifying. You don't accuse them, but your presence alone challenges their act. Your perception is not forced, it is intuitive. You do not interrogate people, yet you understand them. You notice the hesitation behind confident words. You see sadness beneath humor. You feel tension in casual gestures. This does not come from suspicion, it comes from awareness. You listen beyond language. While others focus on what is being said, you notice how it is said. You catch inconsistencies between expression and behavior. Over time, this ability sharpens until deception feels loud and authenticity feels quiet. This makes people uneasy, especially those who rely on masks to survive. Many individuals construct personalities to protect themselves from rejection, shame, or vulnerability. They perform strength, happiness, or control because they fear exposure. When you enter their presence, your attention does not flatter their image, it examines their reality. You do not expose them verbally, but your eyes reflect what they are hiding. They sense this even if you never speak it. They feel naked without being touched. They feel known without being questioned. For those who live in illusion, being seen feels like danger. They would rather be admired than understood. Your awareness threatens that preference. They cannot relax around you because their performance feels useless. Their tricks do not impress you. Their exaggerations do not persuade you. You see the motive behind the act. This is why some become defensive, distant, or hostile, not because you attacked them, but because you removed their camouflage. You do not judge them. You do not shame them. You simply do not play along. You do not pretend not to notice. You do not validate false images. Your neutrality becomes exposure. Your calm becomes confrontation. Without confrontation, you force truth into the space. This challenges people who are not ready to face themselves. They either grow or withdraw. Your ability to see through masks also makes you compassionate, but not naive. You understand pain without excusing behavior. You see wounds without tolerating manipulation. You sense fear without submitting to it. This balance creates emotional authority. You cannot be easily fooled, and you cannot be easily controlled. And for those who depend on deception to feel powerful, this makes you dangerous, not because you attack, but because you cannot be blinded. 4. You carry emotional depth. You don't live on the surface. You think deeply, feel deeply, and question deeply. Shallow conversations drain you. You seek meaning, truth, and real connection. Many people live to escape themselves. You live to understand yourself. This depth can feel heavy to those who avoid introspection. They mistake your seriousness for coldness, but it is actually emotional intelligence. You experience life beneath its surface layers. While others move from distraction to distraction, you move inward. You reflect on your thoughts, your emotions, and your experiences. You ask why things hurt, not just how to avoid them. You examine patterns instead of running from them. This creates emotional weight, but also emotional clarity. You are not afraid of uncomfortable truths. You would rather face reality than hide behind entertainment. Because of this, shallow interaction feels exhausting to you. Small talk feels empty. Repetition feels dull. Performative happiness feels false. You crave conversations that explore meaning, pain, purpose, and transformation. You want to know what shapes people, not just what entertains them. This makes you selective, not antisocial. You prefer depth over volume, few connections over many distractions. Those who avoid introspection feel uncomfortable around you because your presence reminds them of what they suppress. They live to escape themselves through noise, drama, or pleasure. You live to understand yourself through silence, observation, and growth. This difference creates tension. They assume your seriousness is judgment. They assume your quietness is distance. They assume your depth is negativity. In reality, it is awareness. Emotional depth means your feelings are not chaotic, they are studied. You understand your anger instead of exploding with it. You explore your sadness instead of drowning in it. You respect your fear instead of letting it rule you. This creates maturity. You do not fear emotional darkness because you have walked through it. You do not deny pain because you know it carries information. This is why people mistake you for cold. You are not reactive, you are reflective. Your depth also makes you resilient. You do not break easily because you know yourself. You do not collapse under pressure because you understand your inner world. You do not seek escape, you seek meaning. This gives you emotional strength that others do not recognize until they need it. And while many will avoid your seriousness because it makes them uncomfortable, a few will recognize it as wisdom. Those few will feel safe with you because depth creates truth, and truth creates trust. 5. You set boundaries without guilt. You say no without explaining yourself to death. You walk away when disrespected. You protect your time, your energy, and your standards. People who manipulate through guilt feel powerless around you. They are used to bending others to their will. When they meet someone who cannot be emotionally controlled, they call them difficult, when really they are disciplined. Your boundaries are not emotional reactions, they are conscious decisions. You do not wait until you are exhausted to defend yourself. You do not let resentment build before you speak. You recognize your limits and honor them before damage occurs. This makes you appear firm in a world where people overextend themselves to be liked. You do not sacrifice your well-being for approval. You understand that access to you is a privilege, not an entitlement. Many people use guilt as a tool to maintain control. They say things like, "After all I've done for you," or "You're being selfish," or "You've changed." These phrases are designed to weaken your resolve and make you doubt your instincts. But you do not negotiate your boundaries through emotional pressure. You recognize manipulation even when it wears the mask of care. This is why manipulators feel exposed around you. They cannot use shame or obligation to command your behavior. Their usual influence has no grip. When you walk away from disrespect, you send a message without speaking. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. You do not argue for your worth, you demonstrate it through distance. This feels threatening to those who rely on emotional leverage because your self-respect cannot be exploited. They label you as harsh or uncooperative because they are used to compliance, not clarity. Your discipline lies in your consistency. You do not set boundaries dramatically. You do not announce them with anger. You simply enforce them quietly and repeatedly. You choose peace over conflict and distance over chaos. This creates emotional stability within you and emotional frustration in those who expect control. They feel powerless not because you are cruel, but because you are self-governed. Setting boundaries without guilt requires emotional maturity. It means you understand that saying no does not make you bad. It means you accept that not everyone will like you, and that this is not a problem. You respect yourself enough to protect your time, your mental health, and your standards. That is why people who thrive on emotional dependency struggle with you. You cannot be drained, used, or steered easily. You stand where you choose, not where fear pushes you. 6. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't brag. You don't announce your worth. You don't compete loudly. Your confidence is quiet. This unsettles those who only feel valuable when admired. They expect insecurity to negotiate with, but you offer stability instead. And stability looks like dominance to fragile egos. Your self-worth is not built from performance. You do not need to advertise your achievements to feel real. You do not decorate your identity with proof. You know what you are capable of, and that knowledge does not require witnesses. This is why your presence feels heavy in rooms where people rely on attention to survive. They speak louder, exaggerate more, and seek approval more intensely when you remain calm and unbothered. Most people compete because they are afraid of being invisible. They measure their value against others and feel anxious when they are not seen. You do not participate in this race. You do not rise by comparison. You rise by alignment with yourself. This removes desperation from your actions. You are not chasing validation, so you are not controlled by it. Quiet confidence confuses people because it cannot be provoked. When someone insults you, you do not collapse. When someone ignores you, you do not panic. When someone challenges you, you do not perform. You respond only when necessary, and this makes others feel uncertain. They do not know where they stand with you because you are not negotiating for their approval. Those who depend on admiration feel threatened by this. They expect insecurity to engage with their tactics. They expect rivalry, defensiveness, or over-explanation. Instead, they meet stability. and stability feels like dominance to fragile egos because it cannot be shaken easily. Your calm suggests that you do not need to be seen to exist. That idea unsettles those who only feel real when watched. You do not prove yourself because you do not doubt yourself. This does not make you arrogant, it makes you centered. You know your flaws and you know your strengths. You are not pretending to be perfect. You are simply not pretending to be less. This creates psychological authority. People trust those who are not trying to convince them. Your silence in competition is louder than shouting. Your restraint is louder than bragging. Your steadiness is louder than self-promotion. And in a world obsessed with image, your lack of performance becomes your signature. 7. You trigger self-reflection in others. Your life becomes a mirror. When people see your discipline, your courage, or your growth, they are forced to confront what they haven't done. Some will feel inspired, others will feel exposed. Instead of improving, they choose distance. Not because you harmed them, but because you remind them of who they could be. You do not preach transformation, but your actions speak it. When people observe your consistency, your boundaries, or your self-respect, it forces internal comparison. They cannot help but ask themselves what they have neglected. Your presence challenges comfort without saying a word. You do not criticize their choices, yet your existence questions them. This reaction divides people. Those who are ready to grow feel motivated by your example. They ask questions, they listen, they improve. Others feel uncomfortable. They feel judged even though no judgment was spoken. They feel exposed even though no accusation was made. They experience your growth as pressure because it highlights their stagnation. Instead of facing themselves, they create distance. They call you changed. They say you are different. They say you think you're better than them. But what they are really saying is that your evolution makes their inaction visible. You become a mirror they do not want to look into. You do not force self-reflection. You invite it by existing authentically. You show that change is possible, that truth feels dangerous to those who have built excuses. Your courage confronts their fear. Your discipline confronts their comfort. Your clarity confronts their confusion. This is why your path becomes lonely at times. Growth separates you from those who refuse to grow, not by hostility but by contrast. You do not leave them, they leave you. And this distance is not punishment, it is alignment. You cannot shrink to preserve someone else's comfort without betraying yourself. Your life teaches without speaking, and not everyone is ready to learn. 8. You are comfortable being alone. Loneliness does not scare you. Solitude feeds you. You don't cling to company out of fear. This independence signals strength. Many people stay in bad relationships and unhealthy groups because they fear being alone. When they see someone who enjoys their own presence, it challenges their dependency. Your peace feels like rejection to those who don't know themselves. You do not need constant companionship to feel complete. You do not use people as distractions from your own thoughts. You are at ease with your inner world. You can sit in silence without panic. You can walk alone without insecurity. This ability is rare because most people fear what emerges when there is no noise. Solitude gives you clarity. It teaches you who you are without influence. It strengthens your emotional independence. You are not desperate for attention because you give yourself presence. This makes you less likely to accept poor treatment because loneliness does not control your decisions. Those who depend on relationships to escape themselves feel unsettled by this. They stay in chaos because they fear emptiness. When they see you choosing peace over company, it challenges their choices. Your solitude becomes a reminder that they are tolerating what they do not have to. They misinterpret your independence as rejection. They assume you think you are above them, but in truth you are simply at home with yourself. You do not need constant validation to exist. This gives you freedom. You can choose relationships instead of needing them. You can leave dysfunction without fear. Solitude sharpens your mind and deepens your identity. It teaches patience. It reveals truth. It shows you what you actually value. And when you return to others, you return by choice, not dependency. 9. You don't play small to protect egos. You don't dim your light to keep others comfortable. You don't apologize for your intelligence, your ambition, or your standards. You are respectful, but you are not submissive. And this is the ultimate intimidation. Because when you refuse to shrink, you force others to face their own smallness. You do not hide your capabilities to fit in. You do not downplay your goals to seem harmless. You do not reduce your voice to avoid jealousy. You understand that shrinking does not create peace, it creates resentment. You refuse to make yourself smaller so others can feel larger. This unsettles people who depend on hierarchy for confidence. They feel threatened when you stand without apology. They expect submission, and you offer self-respect instead. This makes them feel challenged even though you are not competing. Your authenticity becomes confrontation to their insecurity. You are not arrogant, you are aligned. You know what you are capable of, and you refuse to betray that for acceptance. You respect others, but you do not surrender yourself. This balance is rare. Most people choose between dominance and submission. You choose selfhood. Your refusal to shrink forces truth into the room. It reveals who is confident and who is fragile. It reveals who supports growth and who fears it. You become a test without trying to be one. And this is why you intimidate without aggression. Because you do not lower yourself to make others comfortable. You simply stand where you are, and that alone exposes who cannot stand beside you. If these signs describe you, understand this. Your personality is not the problem. It is the filter. It separates those who are meant to grow with you from those who are meant to leave. A strong personality does not exist to dominate. It exists to awaken. And if this message reached you at the exact moment you needed it, that is not coincidence. It is alignment. This is the Alchemy of Awareness channel. If you felt this in your spirit, subscribe for more messages meant for chosen minds. And for those who received this at the right time in their life, type 11 to 11 in the comment section for divine blessings and confirmation that you are on the right path. Thank you for watching.